Welcome to Literati Presents, a weekly celebration of storytelling happening in and around the Literati Press Bookshop and Writers Co-op in the historic Paseo Arts District of Oklahoma City. I am Charles J. Martin, Creative Director and founder of Literati Press.
And I'm Neyom Friday, Vice President of the Literati Press Writers Co-op. On this week's episode, we'll be getting book recommendations from the LP staff and chatting about exercise in a writer's life.
But first, we'll be talking about a partnership between OKC Rep and the Writers Co-op called Rep Rally at OK Cider at 705 West Sheridan.
Rep Rally at OK Cider. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear your performance. Did you get it all figured out?
Yeah, I did. So this is a lot of the people performing. So Rob, Kristen, B, they are poets. So these are 5-minute slots. So it's going to be 2 5-minute slots to read. And that works really well for poetry, unless you're doing like epic poems or something like that. For fiction, it's tougher because there's a lot of words in fiction. And so it's tougher to get through a piece, especially if you're doing a sample, because 5 minutes isn't enough to do even just a traditional chapter. So I went through the book that I'm working on now, which I'm in final revisions of, The Town Where All Things Are Possible. And it's about a bookstore. It's about more than that. But a bookstore is central to the story. So I decided that I wanted to use my first 5 minutes to talk about why I wrote a book with a bookstore in it and why I am basically rewriting the book after it originally came out as an ebook like 10 years ago. And a lot of that is because I've learned so much more about running a bookstore, why I want to run a bookstore, why Literati Press is what it is. And the book really kind of speaks a lot to the optimism that you kind of have to have whenever you run a bookstore and a publishing company. You know, and really any point in history, but definitely in the 21st century where there's just so many challenges that we're facing all of the time.
Well, thankfully, voice is not one of them.
That's true. Yeah. And it should be really interesting. Like this lineup is really great. Kristen is a fantastic poet. Rob is really one of the more dynamic performing poets in the city and has been for years. I mean, there's a lot of great ones, but I've always really enjoyed Rob. Brett does really interesting, really daring kind of work. His ideas are a little odd in a really fun way. So he's one of those writers that produces the kind of work that goes on, Stories That Resist Classification, bookshelf. Nick, I've always really enjoyed his work as well. He's doing a lot of different things. We did a live read of one of his plays recently. He's working in the fiction realm on the workshop, and I know he's been really invested in the co-op. And then B is going to be doing typewriter poetry. And if you've ever come to the shop on a first Friday, a lot of times we'll have B set up. And yeah, the things that she can do on the spot are really, really pretty extraordinary.
That's going to be so exciting.
Yeah, and you get to drink alcohol. OK Cider is delicious.
Yum.
Now, you wanted to talk a little bit about, talking more about the writer's life. The co-op was really built to support the community of writers to make it easier for writers to live and work in Oklahoma. And you were talking a little bit about exercise. How does that factor into your writer's life?
If I don't get up and move around and get the oxygen in my blood flowing, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like a Pilates class. Oh my God, those are so delicious. And it just helps to put me in a better mood for when I'm putting words on the page.
Murakami is a famous long distance runner. Like, he's obviously a novelist, but he's famous for doing distance running. He's written books about it. You have a long, heritage of writers talking about sports and participating in sports. And I play basketball, and it's always been an important grounding for me. Just having that physical outlet as a way to make it easier for me to go in my cave and be still for a really long period of time.
Yeah, the serotonin, when you hit that, it's just great. That's how, when I come out of a Pilates class, that's how I feel. It's like anything is possible, and I'm floating on top of the world. It just changes my whole dynamic.
Yeah. And writing, being a writer it's a marathon, because you're supposed to continue improving as a writer until basically you die. So you have to stay on top of your physical health. We're not like musicians where if you haven't made it by 40, you're done, which isn't necessarily the case, but as the myth goes. Writers, a lot of writers don't even really start getting career momentum until their 50s and 60s. And if you haven't taken care of your body, you don't have gas in the tank.
Yeah, that is so true. So get up, move your body, breathe.
Yeah, find things that are fun to you, things that are sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have this week's Book Concierge Corner, where a member of the LP staff talks about what titles they're excited about.
My name is Ashley. I am a bookseller at Literati Press. And this week, I am recommending You Could Make This Place Beautiful, a memoir by Maggie Smith. Now, Maggie Smith is normally a poet. This was a much-awaited memoir by Maggie Smith, which discusses her divorce and kind of the fallout from it and how she discovered the infidelity that led to the divorce. It's incredibly easy to navigate in terms of it is super nonlinear. It's super poetic and lyrical. I loved it. There's technically, and I counted them, there's technically 197 chapters, but they're not chapters, they're vignettes. And so, what's really cool, one of my favorite things, is she will repeat the same vignette title, but tell a different story. And so it's super cool. So you almost start to get, one of them that I really loved was, a friend says every book begins with an unanswerable question. And then she'll kind of talk about what the unanswerable question is for that vignette. And she'll kind of move through. And some of them are longer pieces. Some of them are, she might have one vignette that's a note on plot, and it's 3 sentences. And so it kind of weaves throughout. She does have a little bit of poetry in here. Some of her poetry is in here. But for the most part, it is just it reads kind of like a journal entry, and they're just strands and pieces and plots and subplots. And what's really cool is almost it's like stories within stories. And you could even read just the vignettes that have the same title and get a totally like a story just out of those, separate from the book itself. So it's kind of endlessly rereadable almost, because you could read through the whole thing, and then you could also kind of read piecemeal through and see where her like strands are for it. It's super cool, super fun. If you ever been a little shaky about memoir, or worried about like, oh, memoir is so like hard and dense and like just somebody's whole life. I mean, this is obviously emotional for her, and you're furious for her about the way it happened and what she had to deal with as like then as a single mother and as a writer. But the book is so laid out so well that if you needed to, you could take a break from it. You wouldn't lose anything by taking a break and then picking it back up, because it's just all these little vignettes, and they're out of order anyway. So you're not really losing anything big with that. So I highly recommend if you want to get into memoir. Oh, these are fantastic. I mean, so one of the ones I just flipped to, a friend says every book begins with an unanswerable question. The text of the page is, then what is mine? There's a question mark. And then in italicized, where did it go? And that's it. That's the entire page. Page 78. Page 78 is mostly paper and a blank page. So it's really interesting, because you could literally stop there and just like think on that for days.
You sold it to me.
Wonderful. Sold. Okay. Yes. Yes, so this is definitely, like, if you like poetry, you like that kind of style, this is a good Yes. And I've actually read quite a few memoirs that are kind of leaning this direction because memoir tends to be so heavy. A lot of writers have started to lean into more vignette-based memoirs that aren't so heavy. Because I think there's that kind of old classic, like, memoir where it's heavy and it's about all the bad things that happened all packed into 300 pages. It's kind of out. And I think playing with form and playing with ways you can show the information in the memory without it being such a, like, kind of hit over the head way. Yes. Yes, revealing. Yes, it's absolutely revealing of the person. But I also think it wasn't as burdensome for the writer, because it's obviously always difficult to write about hard things. But I'm sure, kind of like poetry is kind of cathartic. This became kind of a cathartic thing for her, I'm sure, to write it in kind of this free form, flowy kind of way, rather than I have to stick to a specific timeline, and this is what happened first, and this is what happened next. Because right, is everyone, and she really doesn't do her husband justice, but luckily, luckily it's in such short vignettes that really she kind of doesn't give him much of a page at all, which is almost her own way of sticking it to him. So, yeah, highly recommend.
Tell us about Literati Press's involvement in LitFest and the Oklahoma Comic Arts Festival.
Yeah, we are going to be at LitFest. Actually, the Writers Co-op is going to be at LitFest this year on August 23rd. That's Saturday. It's the downtown library. And LitFest is this really cool growing thing that they've been doing for a long time. It got interrupted by the pandemic, as many things did. But last year was their biggest year, at least as long as I've been involved. And it's workshops, panel discussions, a lot of things serving the writing community. So we've always been excited to be there. But because the co-op is now, fully functioning, up and running, we really wanted the co-op to be the star of the show this year. And Zachary Scalzo is going to be involved in a couple of discussions. James Cooper, who did the Moonlit Massacre for us, he's got a panel on monsters. Kristen Grace is going to be doing one. It's free. It's open to the public. Mm-hmm. It's definitely worth your time if you're wanting to just explore what a career in writing could look like. And the Oklahoma Comic Arts Festival, that is going to be in September, and that is something I serve on the board for the Oklahoma Comic Arts Foundation, which puts on the festival, and that is also going to be free and open to the public, and that is going to be Oklahoma Contemporary. We are looking for volunteers, so if you're wanting to get involved, check out the website, okcomicarts.org, or check us out on social media. It's really cool because a lot of comic book festivals these days have really turned into pop culture conventions. There are still some really good ones. We enjoy New World. SoonerCon is great. But with OCAF, with Oklahoma Comic Arts Festival, we really wanted to just narrow down to just the art and the writing of comic books. It's really based on creators. So we're not really going to have, celebrities from Star Trek or anything like that. We're not going to be doing, the big lines. There'll be some cosplayers, but the major thrust of this is to really get the people who are creating the stories out in front of the public, just so we can see the beautiful things that are happening in comic books. And Oklahoma Contemporary has been a wonderful partner. So for our inaugural event, we just couldn't be more excited. And Literati Press will be there. We'll have our booth there. We're also a sponsor for the show, and we'll be debuting Hero Doggy Space Corgi, which we're doing a Kickstarter for right now. We will be selling copies of that. It's going to be coming out just in the nick of time. So if you love comics or are interested in getting in comics, this is the event for you. And finally, we have our quick calendar wrap-up of all the things going on this week at Literati Press. We are going to be doing the social hour with OKC Beautiful Sustainability, or OKC Beautiful, their sustainability social hour on Wednesday at August 13th at 5 p.m. That will be at the shop. So if you're wanting to get into gardening, if you're wanting to get into landscape, or just wanting to find out more about how we can make our city a bit more lovely, this is a great place to come. Is really, relax, come and go. So, don't feel intimidated that you're about to get into like a two-hour, workshop on composting, which, if you have a chance to go to a 2-hour workshop on composting, you totally should, because it's fascinating. Red Dirt Poetry has their weekly open mic at 6:30 p.m. at the shop on Wednesdays, every single Wednesday. On Thursday, that's when we're doing our rep rally at OK Cider, 7 p.m. If you want to drink a good beer or a good cider, rather, and listen to some wonderful words, that's something that you need to put on your schedule. For the little ones, we're doing our bookworm storytime hour at 10:30, and that's every single Thursday at the shop, open to all ages. And then on Sunday, we're doing something I'm really excited about. It's the House District 88 Community Read, and this is being put on by Ellen Pogmiller, and it is going to be a talk happening at our bookshop at 2 p.m. on Sunday, and that is going to be talking about Together, a book about the need for community, not only for better cities, but for our own health. It is really excellent book, well worth it. We've got copies at the shop. It is going to be 25% off if you get it before the event on Sunday. And then finally, we have a Red Dirt Writes Poetry Workshop on Tuesday. That is August 19th at 7 p.m.
This podcast was recorded in the Literati Press Bookshop and Writers Co-op in the Paseo Arts District of Oklahoma City.
Special thanks to our podcast editor, Neyom Friday, and Michael C. Martin for all the tunes. And for everyone else who has participated and helped make this possible, follow us at Literati Press on all socials and our new literary journal on Substack. That is called Okra. We'll be back next week with new storytellers with Literati Presents.